Welcome to the Tradier Rundown. I am Jim Urio. Oftentimes when you catch us on this, we're laughing because we're in the middle of something right when the screen closes that we go to the live show. What I was asking you, Bobby, is that, that's Bob Iacino. He and I together are the co-hosts of the Trader's Edge, which airs live Wednesdays, 3 o'clock Central Time. We record it just after we record this, and then it's available on YouTube, et cetera, et cetera. What I was about to ask you is that since it's about energy and about seasonality in the rundown, I'm going to ask you the questions because you've forgotten more than I know about the energy trade. So in the winter, natural gas tends to rally. In the winter, gasoline, crude oil tends to go lower. Is there any reason to not believe that same thing is going to happen this year?
So there's a little bit in reference to natural gas. Natural gas seasonality is changing ever so slightly when you do sort of natural gas calculations over the last 5 years, as opposed to the last 20, which is kind of standard. And that is that there is more natural gas generated electricity than there was in the past. So supplies are getting used up during high air conditioning use times of the year, which would be now, especially with some of the heat we've had across places like Las Vegas, Arizona, even Chicago, obviously Florida and Texas as well. It's been hot. So it doesn't necessarily stop the fact that we rally going into winter. You look at natural gas seasonality, and you look at a 20-year chart, and the strength starts in mid to late July, and it's sort of a slow grind until September when you get a nice sort of demand-driven ramp up. But that usually slows at the beginning of December, and I attribute that to speculation and people getting out of winning trades.
So, and I'm going to ask about gasoline being cheaper in the winter as well. Are these things, if you start noticing the seasonality, something that's what like sell in May and go away. Yeah, maybe it worked, 30 years ago, but now if everybody thinks it's going to work, it can't possibly work because traders and speculators spoil the party once there's a pattern that develops. Is it a similar sort of thing, or is it these still things that you really want to be looking at?
Here's what I would tell people. Seasonality by itself is an awful trading strategy. I mean, unless you're somebody that just puts on this trade and doesn't look at it and relies on the 20-year reliability of a seasonality, that's a little bit different. You mentioned gasoline. There's been no change in gasoline seasonality over the last 5 years. It's been the same. Basically peaks in June and July, and then just trails off until about the second week of December when it starts to rally again. It doesn't slow down until the next June. So it's about positioning for the seasons almost as much as it is about the season's actual arrival.
Okay, the last thing I want to hit is the seasonality or perceived seasonality of equity markets. October has been a month, and I've noticed something about the big breaks in October. The year 1929 comes out, the year 1987 comes out, like Black Mondays in October, and these things happen. But I did notice that all those years have an odd number as the last digit, meaning they're not a presidential election year. Can you rectify all those things together and put them in a bow?
Well, number one, presidential election years generally have a positive track to them, a positive trend. The monthly seasonality is September through like the second week of October is a little bit of heaviness in the seasonality. We all know that. Middle of February to about the beginning of March, a little bit of heaviness there. But equities, the history of equities are up. So also we had a double-digit gain in the first half of the year. 75% of the time, the second half of the year is positive as well, with an average return of about 6.5%, which is about 200 basis points better than the average second half return, regardless of what happens in the first half. So a lot of seasonality is pointing to a strong second half. I don't know if it'll work this time. But
what about the curb stomping that we're recording this on Wednesday? Stocks got absolutely pummeled today. Does that change anything in your mind or just a one-off?
I like buying this first correction. I like selling the second one, so it doesn't really change anything in my mind.
Got it. This has been Tradier Rundown. I'm Jim Urio. That's Bob Iacino. Please join us. Tradier's The Trader's Edge, Wednesday, 3 p.m. Chicago time. See you then.
You know how the financial world goes. Here comes the buzzkill. Please make sure to take some time to read this boring disclaimer. We will owe you one.